What's up, guys? It's Cognitive Pit for Pronto Gaming, and I'm going to be talking about the Magic Missile Conflagrate build, which is pretty popular among people who don't have the Wand of Woe for the Explosive Blast build, and a lot of people are actually saying that this build is better than the Explosive Blast build at better gear levels. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the skills I use for this build. So Magic Missiles with Conflagrate, which is the most important skill. A lot of people only use this as their only damaging skill because they think a lot of the other damaging spells can't keep up with the DPS that it outputs. I sort of disagree, and I use Meteor with Molten Impact, which I mainly use for large creatures or elites, which I'll show some gameplay later. My last build, people were complaining about not having gameplay, so I'll add some gameplay in with this. I'll just go into a bounty and see how it works, really. Next, I use Black Hole. You can either use Spell Steal or Blazer, or Blizzard, I don't know, whatever. I mean, honestly, you can use any of them that you want. Supermassive is really good if you want a lot of crowd control. Event Horizon can be pretty good. But I use this because it adds more damage. Spell Steal can be pretty good, especially if you're using Molten Impact Meteor, because it ends up doing more damage. Magic Weapon, you can either use Force Weapon or Deflection, depending on... really, if you need the extra toughness, you can use Deflection, give you the shield. It's pretty good. I use the Sparkflint rune for Familiar, just for that extra damage, and Prismatic Armor, Energy Armor, just for the little bit extra toughness. You can use Pinpoint Barrier if you're using something, or if you're doing a low Torment. That's fine too. As far as passive skills, there's a few options here for you, depending on what your build looks like. And what gear you're using. So I use Glass Cannon. A lot of people like Elemental Exposure. I personally don't, mainly because I play on lower torments for faster runs, and things don't live that long enough for Elemental Exposure to really give me a benefit. I use Blur just because there's nothing else that's like really stands out that's good for lower difficulties. You really don't need Prodigy or Astral Presence at all. Maybe Galvanizing Ward if you need toughness. Conflagration, and which basically just adds critical hit chance, which has the same issue, I find, that Elemental Exposure does, because this puts on the crit chance after hitting them, which normally things are dead so fast that it really doesn't make a big difference. But I think it's one of the better things that's left as a choice. And then we have Dominance. I think Dominance at lower torments is like the best thing you can do to increase your survivability. You don't actually have to get the last kill. Basically anyone in your group can, so it's even good for group play. Alright, now let's look at some of the gear and how my gear has affected my skill choices. Okay, so I've put a few weapons in here that you can use. I'm currently using the Thunder Fury because it gives some of the most highest DPS overall than any other weapon that I found for me. The important part of this build, as you'll obviously see, is Mirror Ball. Now, the reason Mirror Ball is so good is because it increases your damage by 3 times. It's a huge, huge deal. It makes your Magic Missile shoot 3 instead of just 1. This build is worthless without it. On this, you're generally going to want to have Magic Missile damage. You're also going to want Magic Missile damage on your belt and your pants. Mine are pretty awful, but I don't use this build too much anymore. So it's not something I'm too concerned about at this moment in time. You're also going to want a Cinder Coat, which is really good for this build. There's not much better than a Cinder Coat. And then normally you're going to want an Endarial, stuff like that. Just like the best in slot items. Generally, I use Oghilds because Oghilds is really great. I'm using Firebirds right now just because I have Firebirds pants. I may as well get the 500 extra int on my helm because I don't have Endarials. Now, where choices really come into play is with your weapons. Now, my weapons that I've really gone through a few different choices here. Let's look at the Sunkeeper. Now, the Sunkeeper is specifically for Molten Impact. I was increasing my elite damage. I think I was using a Unity instead of the Royal Ring, or the Ring of Royal Grandeur. And just totally boosting up my damage against elites, and I was doing upwards of 150 million crits with it. The other reason it's good is because it's so slow, so your Molten Impact meteors hits really, really hard. So that was an option for a while. It did a ton of damage, one-shotting Torment 3 elites. It was really good at the time, but I got my Sun Fury, or my Thunder Fury rather, and that just seemed to be the better choice for me. Now, you also have the 2 weapons that give you fire damage. I ran it through a DPS calculator, and it's about even using a Thunder Fury or something that gives you fire damage. Mainly because you're usually losing something by having that extra fire damage. So like this Burning Axe of Sankis doesn't have a socket right now, so you'd have to get rid of the attack speed, lowering the overall DPS of the weapon. Which normally you don't really want attack speed, you'd rather have the percent damage. But this weapon, for instance, does much lower DPS, and the fire skill damage increases your damage output roughly to about Thunder Fury, maybe a little bit higher, but the chance to hit your enemy with lightning that Thunder Fury has just really blows the Devastator or the Burning Axe just out of the water. Now, these are definitely all really good options, though, if you don't have a Thunder Fury, and they can even be good options if you have a bad Thunder Fury. So don't feel like you're limited to a Thunder Fury. There are many options for this build. The only thing that's required for this build is the Mirror Ball with 2 extra missiles. Unfortunately, it can roll 1 extra missile, which is total garbage. And then, of course, you're going to want Mage Fists. Mage Fists are just the best gloves, because it gives you that 5th extra primary being fire damage. Now, let's go look at the skills again. I mentioned before using the Sunkeeper to do a ton of damage. When I was doing that, I did not use Black Hole. The other option, with the new Archon changes, you could use Archon if you wanted, I guess. But you could use Teleport with it. Teleport's good, it'll increase your clearing speed time, or you could use Frost Nova if you wanted. Anything to increase your survivability. Teleport's really good, though. So you could use Teleport instead of Black Hole. Now, what this allows you to do is switch out Conflagration, or Dominance, or Blur, Glass Cannon, whatever you want. But I use Conflagration because I don't think it really increases that much if you're going to be playing at lower levels. What you can go ahead and do is switch Conflagration out with Arcane Dynamo. Now, Arcane Dynamo says when you cast a signature spell, you gain a flash of insight. After 5 flashes of insight, your next non-signature spell deals 60% additional damage. Now, we already know that this is a magic missile build, so the entire time you're running around, you're going to be casting magic missiles. While you do this, you're going to be building up the Arcane Dynamo stacks, or the Flash of Insight stacks. Now, if you're using a slow weapon with a lot of elite damage, what this really means is 60% additional damage on top of one of the highest damage dealing spells we have, being this Meteor and Molten Impact. You're going to be doing outrageous damage. You're going to be doing 100 million non-crits. You're going to be doing ridiculous damage with it. And that's another option that you have. However, I find that overall, you're going to be clearing slower if you're going for that slower approach with the Meteor. But it's really fun and really entertaining, so it's definitely an option for this build. Now, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm only playing on Torment 3 because I don't think that this build is particularly good. I mean, it can clear Torment 6. I can clear Torment 6 no problem with this build and this rather mediocre gear, honestly. Terrible pants. I'm not using full sets or whatever. Everything's just okay. Terrible Royal Ring. But I can clear Torment 6 Rifts. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes, though, on average, which is not optimal at all. So I try to stick towards Torment 3. I use Dominance to keep myself alive really easily. And let's just pop over to the Fields of Misery real quick, and I'll just show you the basics of this build. Again, I'm only going to really show using what I use right now, which is Black Hole. So basically you just run around, your magic missiles go through things, So as you can see, I've got a shield around me from killing things, and I'm pretty much invincible in Torment 3. Nothing is ever going to get through this. And if it does, I'm just playing poorly. So as you can see, they do a ton of damage. They're critting for 5-6 million, and they go through things, making them extraordinarily good. But as you can see, I really only get 2 hits on something before it dies, making Conflagration, the passive skill, really not that optimal if you're playing on a lower difficulty. So this is actually a really solid build. These things are generally really weak, but I want to just show you the power of using Meteor here. See, it does a lot of damage. I'm normally critting for about 50 million, which, if you're against single target or against elites, I mean, I'm doing, if everything crits, I do about 15 to 18 million damage per target per magic missile cast. Which means we're doing a total of maybe 50 million on elites, if we're looking at 3 of them. But what I like to do to elites is just bring them in with Black Hole and then Meteor. And while you're doing that, Meteor actually, it's not a channel or anything, so it's a quick cast, and it'll do equal to, possibly more damage than your magic missile. It's very concentrated, so we're looking at a lot of damage to the individual elites. So I think it's actually really, really good to use, because I can keep attacking while it's casting, and it's not a big deal at all. So if there's a lot of things grouped up, we can group them up, and then our Conflagration, or our magic missile, will go through them. So yeah, Torment 3, ridiculously easy with this build. You don't need a lot of good gear, you just need the Mirror Ball. Most builds aren't good for a Fire Wizard if you don't have a Mirror Ball. There are some viable ones. There's the Wave of Force build, which is pretty decent. It's basically like a less mobile version of the Explosive Blast build, but Magic Missile build is huge, very popular. A lot of people have different passive skills, they use different abilities. I tried to explain to the best of my knowledge a lot of the popular ones, but I really like the way I play mine. And it's definitely going to get you through anything you want. In groups, it's actually extraordinarily powerful, because you can just sit back and cast magic missiles and destroy everything. So Torment 6 ready, it's nice and easy. Other than that, guys, check out the stream, twitch.tv/prontogaming. Our link to our blog is in the description, and it's on the Twitch page. So check us out. We don't have a schedule up right now, but we're going to be getting a schedule up soon. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching.